Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, I love talking all things reality TV, and today we are talking about one of my all-time favorite shows, Season 3 of Claim to Fame. Now, if I'm gonna be honest, I will say this season has been my least favorite of all the seasons so far, but it has not discouraged me whatsoever. I still think it was so fun to watch. It's still so good, and I cannot wait for season 4. But while we wait for season 4 to come out, might as well talk about this season, starting off by going over the cast. I'm going to tell you them in the order that they got eliminated and who their celebrity relative is. First up, we have Bianca, who is the niece of ABC News anchor, loved by the nation, Robin Roberts. Next up, we have Jill, who is the niece of the uncle to many 90s babies out there. Yes, Uncle Jesse from Full House, aka John Stamos. Next up, we have Gracie Liu, who is the niece of John Cryer, famous for things like being in Pretty in Pink and 2.5 Men. Next up, we have Miguel, or as we later learn, his real name, Raphael, who is the nephew of the famous actress Jamie Lee Curtis. The credits go on and on and on. Halloween, Freaky Friday, you name it, beloved by all. Next up, we have Naomi, whose cousin is Molly Ringwald, famous for Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, or my all-time personal favorite, Secret Life of the American Teenager. Next up, we have Diedrich, who was also using a false name like our friend Miguel. We learn his real name is Sigmund, and his uncle is the famous pop legend Michael Jackson. Next up, we have Danny, or so we thought, because once again we have somebody using a fake name. We later learn his real name is Miguel, so there was just like a little name swap almost happening in there. And his relative is the famous salsa singer Marc Anthony, whose other claim to fame is being Jennifer Lopez's ex. Next up, we have Shane, whose grandfather is Marlon Brando, the famous actor well known for The Godfather and so many other things. And then a side note, we find out that his godfather is Michael Jackson. That has nothing to do with his celebrity claim to fame. It just gets brought up and I want to talk about it in a little bit, so just put a pin in that. Next up, we have Mackenzie, whose dad is the famous country singer Trace Adkins. Next up, we have Hud, whose dad is famous American rock singer John Mellencamp, which also, this article just made me put together by them saying it and me reading it, means his sister is Teddy Mellencamp from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I hadn't even thought about that for 1 second in my mind until I just read that. Wild. Anyway, and last we have Adam, whose uncle is the great ballad singer Michael Bolton. And now that we've gone over the cast, you know who everybody is and who they're related to. I'm just going to talk about some feelings, thoughts, favorite moments of the season overall. The very first thing I want to say is when I watch Claim to Fame, I am super hardcore about it. I remember in season 1 when they were telling us who some of these people's relatives were, and I was so mad about it, and I was so happy in season 2 and since then they've not said anything until the reveal, because I like playing. That's part of why I love watching this show. So I go hard mode when I am watching. If I talk about it with people who I think might know the answer, I tell them, don't tell me if you think you know who it is. Or if I'm scrolling Twitter and I see somebody who I even think is going to say something, scroll right past. I do no Googling. If something happens upon me by accident, it does, but I do everything in my power to try to just play like the players are playing. Yes, I have the benefit of knowing everything each person knows, but I'm not using Google. And I will say, this is one of the first, there's only been 3 seasons, but this season was so hard for me. My head felt so empty the entire time. I was just sitting there I guess I don't know pop culture for so much of it, for a very long time. And I think overall, that was kind of one of the issues that came about with this season. It really felt like none of them were having any luck with guessing. It really just felt like people were just throwing darts at the wall with their eyes shut for a lot of the season, really until midway through, and then it'd be like, oh, thank God we got one person, and then they get them out. It didn't really feel like we got as much strategy as we've gotten in previous seasons. It felt like a lot of people grasping for lifeboats, which was still fun to watch. Again, I'm not saying I had a great time ready for season 4, but I think that's what made it maybe kind of boring for some people, because I have seen that word thrown around a couple times. I'm honestly not 100% sure how that gets solved. One thing I saw a couple different people talking about in different forums and things like that was the idea of getting some older contestants on. It feels like we don't ever get people above like 40 or 45. Like, let's get somebody's grandpa out there who's related to like a young pop star. Like, get Sabrina Carpenter's grandpa or someone if they're out there. I think that might be interesting to help with people's level of knowledge of knowing different things, because something I did see pointed out a lot was it felt like this was a pretty young cast, and that was what made it kind of hard for a lot of them to guess, because they didn't really think of people immediately like Marlon Brando or Michael Bolton and things like that. So maybe having a better variation in the ages could help with that, and I do think it would be more interesting to watch. Like, I think it's always more fun to watch these shows when you can get a good variety, when you can get knowledge from a lot of different access points, if that makes any sense. And going off of the theme of there wasn't a lot of strategy, the strategy that I did get to see implemented at times was really fun to watch. One of my favorites, even though he might have gotten booted for getting a little too wild with everything, was Miguel. His strategy of trying to get them to focus on the fact that he was Hispanic and trying to find like a Hispanic celebrity to attribute him to, like bringing up the Antonio Banderas stuff. I mean, honestly, I thought that was a great move he did with Diedrich. When it was starting, when he was like doing the talking to himself and Diedrich overhearing him, I was immediately like, I smell a plan, and I was right, and I loved it, because I was like, if this isn't a plot, this is very, very bad, so please let it be, and I was so glad it was. So I really, even though he did end up going a little off the deep end, I think if he had really just buckled down and focused a little more and didn't get so nervous, I think he could have gone really, really far. I'm not discrediting him, though, because I would also lose my mind in a place like that. I always say I am not made for reality TV. I'm just made to talk about it, because I would not survive. So I talked about something kind of bad with this season, with the whole casting feeling a little off situation. So now to go into something good about the casting, one thing I really liked, which they play with this every season, I think a little, but it just felt like more intentional this season, in my opinion at least, was the intermingling of some of these celebrities, like Molly Ringwald and John Cryer both being up there, and then the fact that Shane's godfather is Michael Jackson, so that connection to Diedrich. I really liked all the puzzle pieces all kind of coming together. I felt that was really interesting, and I'd love if they could find ways to do more of that. I can get how that might be hard and tricky, because you might end up you can't get people who know each other, but, and then if their relatives know each other, there's a possibility they know each other, but still, it made it fun. I really liked is somebody gonna figure that out? And that was one of the reasons I wanted Naomi to stay longer, and Gracie Lou, because I wanted to see that play out more, and I was very sad I did not get to see that. And once again, the games. I love the games on Claim to Fame. I love the ones they keep bringing back, like Telephone. I liked that they brought back the interrogation one, and then I really liked the new challenge where they were having to like feel stuff and smell stuff. That was hilarious to me, especially my favorite moment of that whole thing, and I keep replaying it in my head, is when Adam goes to sniff, I think it was mothballs or something like that. He sniffs it and just so quickly and confidently is like, that's napalm. Yep, that's napalm. They brought napalm out here. So funny. I was crying laughing. It was just so good. And then his teammate to have HUD just sitting in his little interview being like, do you think they made napalm and brought it on TV? And so it's just so funny. But I get it, like when your senses are all masked like that, but just so funny to be so confident about it repeatedly. Napalm. It's napalm. It's napalm. I'm sure of it. It's napalm. And I think now is as good of time as any to just go ahead and talk about the ending, because that was a very big thing with this season, is the winner being Adam. And yes, I have thoughts, feelings, and opinions about it. So I was not an Adam fan. From the beginning, I very much felt like, as some of the contestants said, I just felt like he wasn't trying very hard to get his own clues. I feel like he would find people out who he could tell knew something and just kind of latch onto it. And that is my least favorite type of player to watch. It's a strategy. You can pick it. It's a game, but it's my least favorite to watch. Also, just his level of pop culture just was so low. I was incredibly shocked by the people he didn't know, especially with his age. Some people that they were calling out and he would just be like, I don't know. Or the one I think that was the most egregious, that just made me want to like die, was, I think it was Danny. Yeah, Danny talking to him about Diedrich's clue and talking about the scarecrow thing and, you know, doing everything he could to lead this man to Michael Jackson. And Adam's just like, I don't get it. I don't know. It was just so frustrating. I was like, how have you made it this far? Like, how? I didn't get it. It was very frustrating, and I was very frustrated when he got to the end. However, it is a strategy. While I don't like it, the way he latched onto people is a good way to go, and he knew nobody knew him, and he did a very good job of doing nothing to help with that. Because some of these people will just say stuff that, if the person knows, it could be so obvious who their celebrity relative is. And I feel like Adam did do a good job of just staying very aloof in that way, and almost just being more annoying by riding coattails and people being more annoyed with that they focused on that instead of just figuring out who he was. So really, in the end, I'm not like one of those people who's mad Adam was in the finale. I'm not gonna like write a letter to ABC or him, or y'all know I think that's wild behavior. And I'm not even upset that he won. I am upset with the rest of the cast for not getting him out. I feel like there were a couple times they had some good strategies to be able to get Adam out. They knew they did not know that man, and he posed a threat by the just pure fact that nobody knew him. And they, in my personal opinion, they did not take active enough steps to try to get him out. They were always focused on the wrong thing, especially in the end when we get Mackenzie and Hud and Adam. And for whatever reason, I don't know what leaked in Mackenzie's brain to make her not realize she needed to work with Hud on getting Adam's keys so they could get him out and then they could just duke it out. I was literally just screaming at the TV like, girly pop, why? What are you doing? Because I understand she was concerned that she didn't know who Hud was. That's fair. But what you should be more concerned with is working as a team. You still have somebody who's willing to work with you when you're in the final 3. Do that. So hopefully you'll be the final 2. I was so mad. I was just yelling the whole time. I was like, girl, what have you done? Because especially by the time she figured it out, it was too late. It was too late to be like, oh yeah, I'll help Hud now, because he still had like all of her key. Like, Adam was going to town getting Mackenzie's stuff. So it was too late. And that killed me. That killed me. And the moment that happened, and I knew that Adam had that ability to win that challenge, I knew it was over. I knew he was going to win. I knew he was going to win, because while he did have a very hard time with pop culture and a lot of the clues, you do have to give it to him. He did figure out both of them. So I'm just saying, he might have had to write Molly Ringwald on his hand, but he got both of them, and those are the two that mattered, and that's how he won. Overall, while I do feel like the season was kind of a lull, I am still very excited for season 4, and overall, I did have fun watching it, just like I have before. I really do think there was just some problems in casting, and part of what I didn't have as much fun with was I just had no clue who anybody was, and part of that was just my own pop culture knowledge, because they'd show some of these people and I was like, honestly wouldn't have thought of that. Like, I might know who they are, but I never would have thought about it or would have been able to even take the clues to get to that person. And that is a wrap on Claim to Fame Season 3. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to like it. As always, I'd love to hear any thoughts, feelings, opinions, all that and more down below in the comments section. And if you like talking about reality TV, maybe subscribe to the channel. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.